Hello, my name is Laura Joy, and I'll be reading Genesis 18. So this is right after God made a promise to Abraham and changed his name from Abram to Abraham, and Sarah his wife from Sarai to Sarah. They circumcised all the males in their household. So, Genesis 18. And the Lord appeared to him in the plains of Mamre, and sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes, and looked, and see, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground. And said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, pass not away, I pray you, from your servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort you, your hearts, after that you shall pass on. For therefore you come to your servant, and they said, So do as you have said. And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, and knead it, and make cakes on the hearth, with an H before it, not the earth. That'd be gross. And Abraham ran to the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it to a young man, and he hurried to dress it. Excuse me. And he took butter and milk and a calf which he dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said to him, Where is Sarah your wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of your life. And see Sarah your wife, she shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, and were well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxen old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I surely bear a child which I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed, I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. And Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, No, but you did laugh. And the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went and with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and shall all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring Abraham that which he has spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because of the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come to me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from there, and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood before the Lord. And Abraham drew near, and said, Will you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Will you also destroy and not spare the place for 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from you to do after this manner, and slay the righteous with the wicked, and that righteous should be as the wicked that be far from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, I will then spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken on me to speak to the Lord, which I am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Will you destroy the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spoke to him yet again and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said to him, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold, now I have taken on me to speak to the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak, yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went on his way, and soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So Abraham used a persuasion tactic there. He probably just felt it in his soul to continually lower the bar of how many should righteous should there be in the city, because he really didn't want Lot, his nephew, to be destroyed either. I think it's part of it, but also he said, shall you destroy the wicked, the righteous with the wicked? And it was just a very interesting thing that God laid on his heart to ask. And the Lord can do anything, even give you a child in your old age. But there was a reason that God wanted Sarah to have a child even when she was old. I think that God makes us wait for things that we really want. He knows that we want them, and he hears our prayers for them, and he knows exactly what you need, even if it's not given to you right away. So yep, that's good to think about, like with a relationship. Sometimes you have to wait to talk to a guy, because if you text him too often, it's a really bad thing, because then he's he begins to think that you can just talk to him anytime and kind of disrespect you for that. So waiting for that kind of builds respect. So I think God's having Sarah wait for a child to build respect for her child, and the longer you live, the more lessons you have to teach your children. So he really wanted the best for Isaac. Anyway, auf Wiedersehen, eat all the potato chips in the world.